to the Babson Olin Wellesley Wintersession presentation in 2015. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming here, trekking many, many miles. I don't know how many you've been. So I'm here to basically talk about the logistics a little bit of today. So what's going to happen is we're going to kind of give a brief overview of everything, of the program itself and also the things that we've accomplished. And then after that, we're going to break for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, we will go into detail in a Q&A session form of what specifically that we were able to accomplish. So we're just going to give a brief summary first so everybody's on the same page. Okay, so our program is sponsored by the Babson Olin Wellesley 3-college collaboration. We are funded by them. And this program was basically meant to help give a way for students from all 3 colleges to basically work together, put their skills into a project that everybody can work towards and create through this collaboration, through this helping each other and coming from diverse backgrounds, that we can actually create a powerful result. So this year, so this program usually is towards helping a local nonprofit. And this year we have, I'm sure you all know, we partnered up with the Acera School. So for the participants for the program, obviously we draw from all 3 colleges. This year we had 3 coordinators, 1 from each school, that was responsible for basically recruiting people and spreading the word on our program. So this year we have 4 Babson students, 5 Wellesley students, and 2 Olin students. And now I'm going to transfer the mic over to John, and he will tell you more about our project itself.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. So I'm
Thank
John.
you.
And you as well.
I'm Ari.
I'm Charlotte from Wellesley College.
Elena from Wellesley College.
Michael, Olin.
Manisha from Babson.
Melissa from Babson, and we've got a few more people in the back.
I'm Kristen, I'm from Wellesley.
I'm Emily, I'm from Babson. I'm Reba, I'm from Wellesley.
I'm Michelle, I'm from Wellesley as well.
Thank you.
So we chose the Acera School as our partner for our Wintersession program, not only because we're really passionate about education and like the space, and we even have some Wellesley students who are going to school to learn more about education, but we also liked Acera's specific model because it really focuses on projects, hands-on and inquiry-based learning, and those are a lot of philosophies that are ingrained into Babson and Olin's curriculum. So it's just something that we were really interested in working with. By working with all 3 of the schools, at first there's some obvious differences between how we all interact and the ways we communicate, and this kind of is something we all recognize during our daily lives and going to school during the semester. But for this project, it really started to play to our strengths because we got to really sit down at the very beginning and start to get to know one another. I think we spent probably 12 hours a day together, which is pretty impressive since there's definitely an even split between introverts and extroverts. So we started to bond really quickly, and by doing that and really having daily check-ins, we were able to pull frameworks from each one of our disciplines and ways of thinking that could best solve the problem at hand, and it made us a lot more productive. So this is some of the pictures of us working together. And basically we decided after a lot of deliberation and going back and forth with Courtney that the way we could best help the Acera School in the 2 weeks we had for our project was by creating a pitch, which would hopefully be given, or a framework for a pitch, which could be made to give to investors, parents, and really just kind of communicate the value that Acera brings to all of its students and parents and the community around it. So the next thing we thought about doing was, if we're going to create a pitch, we should probably figure out what the plan is behind the pitch. So we created a startup plan for if Acera wanted to start a high school, what kind of points they would need to touch on and complete if they were going to talk with investors or anybody else. The next thing and the last thing we decided we wanted to do was just create some next steps, places for Acera to continue to learn and really dive into if they want to start a high school.
Thanks. In creating our investor pitch, we essentially wanted to distill the elements of Acera into the most interesting and marketable points. So this is our framework for how we would organize such an investor pitch. philosophies and how it distinguishes itself from other schools. Essentially, for those of you who aren't aware, Acera teaches mainly high ability and accelerated learning students. And that's the focus of their education. And they have a bunch of unique philosophies. And we outline those on the next page where we talk about some of the specific philosophies and goals of the Acera education philosophy method. And these are kind of meant to be more broad and kind of truths that everybody can rally around that really support the school. Next, after we've kind of demonstrated some of the truths of the method, we compare it with the traditional education system that Acera is trying to kind of rectify and also improve on some of the distinctions between the traditional model and the Acera model that indicate to investors who are looking for, why is the school unique? What problems does it attempt to address? This really outlines those distinctions. One of the key points that really makes Acera different from other schools is their approach to project-based learning and how it's integrated into the entire curriculum across all disciplines. So we outline in the pitch other examples of how project-based learning has been used in the past to really improve schools and really make a difference. And now Manusha has more details on the financing.
So, coming from an investor standpoint, we wanted to say, okay, so we did all this research as a group, and based on this research, based on these past models, Acera High School has a great potential in the future. So based on that, we outlined some of the biggest aspects that we found in building Acera High School. So looking at it from the current Acera School right now, for the K through 8 model, it's been a very rapid growing, very fast growing program. So that's one of the key aspects that we'd want to highlight in the Acera program. And some of the other ones are survey based, so a lot of research showing investors and donors that we've done a lot of research on this to show that there's a great potential for Acera. And then coming to a portfolio standpoint, portfolios would be more of, okay, so this is very different. This form of education is very different from the standard high school, public school education that you would go through in terms of the typical transcripts that we would be talking about. And we would want to show something hands-on to colleges when students get to colleges, to show something that, and a portfolio environment to show, okay, this is what students have worked on, and this is what they've accomplished, showing showing something physical instead of just something on paper that you'd see on a transcript. And so that's something unique about Acera High School, and which is what Acera is doing right now currently too, adapting into more of a high school model. And another one would be financial aid for students that would be coming into school, would not probably be able to afford the education for the school, is something that Acera High School can strive towards in the next 3 years or so. And with that, for investors and donors, they want to see something really quick, really few points on what Acera High School fosters. So some of the key points are the initial funding that may be needed would be $5 to $10 million based on the future growth plans and based on how much our buildings would be worth, or based on how much we're looking to grow for the students. And the next point would be our goal to open in 2017. And one of the other aspects to highlight is the fact that the student to teacher ratio is 10 to 1. So that's a very unique model for Acera and for more of a very individualized learning platform. And a final investment thesis would be that they're expecting to grow at 400 students in the next 3 to 5 years after starting the high school, which is a very rapid growth, yet very rapid yet possible could be achieved in 4 to 5 years. And this is a just quick overview of what Acera High School fosters again, just to show the investor, these are the main points as to what makes Acera High School unique to some of the other models that we've researched and looked into in other schools. With that, another aspect of Acera High School is that the partnerships it would foster, which is the colleges that it fostered, Wellesley, Babson, Olin, that could bring in some of the education that the hands-on learning that we get in these schools and adapting it to the Acera High School. As well as another aspect that our group brainstormed was reaching out to Rotary and the Kiwanis Club, which are the international clubs that are very willing to fund some scholarships for students who would need the financial aid to go to these schools that may not be able to afford these schools. So they're more than willing to help some of these students, especially in the educational field. So this is a fantastic opportunity that Acera High School has. Another one is partnerships with some of the companies that we have from our schools, Microsoft, Google, some of the partnerships to foster with that. And some of the other schools for research could potentially be MIT and the Harvard Extension School for some of these students to conduct research in high school that a lot of students end up doing for being interested in. And so from an investor standpoint, we wanted to highlight some of the core capabilities that Acera High School would have. So now that we have this vision for this high school, what's it going to look like? And some of these core capabilities that the high school would have is essentially what a lot of Acera from the K through 8 fosters, but extending it to a 9 through 12 high school education. So all that fosters from leadership education to project-based learning to computer science foundation to creative math and science to fostering all of these different core capabilities in order to bring together a high school for Acera. And including this, one of the aspects for what an investor would want to see or a donor would want to see is the financial capabilities of the school. And so with the financial model that we were given, we created 3 different scenarios. We built in models to create 3 different scenarios for this high school. So if the high school is going to, whether the high school could have a conservative, a likely growth of expanding to 400 students in 5 years, or to an aggressive growth. It could go faster than that. So having different models and modeling the different revenue growths that come with it and the costs that come with it is an aspect of the model that we worked on throughout the 2 weeks. And now I'll pass it on to Ari to talk about.
I think we're going to pass it to Shaolin for discussion of our strategic plan that we developed for the school and our methods of assessing the progress the school is making.
Alright, this is Shaolin from Wellesley College. After researching and consulting with education experts, professionals, professors, and related personnel, we collected valuable data and information and compiled them into the following reports that I will briefly summarize. This is the strategic plan. While researching other schools like the Columbian Independent School located in Missouri, we developed a strategic plan to help Acera actualize building a real high school. It includes these 5 sections: program, which considers a plan to build a curriculum; personnel, which is a plan to hire a team of teachers that aligns with Acera's mission; finance, which is the financial plan, the specifics; community, a plan of outreach to the nearby community to spread the Acera mission; and student body, a plan for developing a sizable amount of students that fit well in Acera. The strategic plan is meant as an outline and starting point for Acera to go on from here. Both qualitative and quantitative measurements of student learning is important for tracking student progress. However, it is notably more difficult to demonstrate on paper when there is no report cards or frequent testing and grades. So we've explored a few options to give to Acera and created our own assessment method. We created 3 surveys to assess students' behavioral changes and client satisfaction. The 3 research that we looked into was first the Olin model, which is currently the assessment system that Olin has in place to track students' success through outcomes of grad school, employment, and other professional results. There's also student engagement surveys and self-reporting, which is self-assessment methods. For our surveys that we created, as I said, they're meant to assess behavioral changes and client satisfaction. They will be given out 4 times a year to parents, teachers, and students. The parent survey measures students' behavioral changes at home and outside of the classroom, parent satisfaction with Acera, and it provides a platform for feedback. Teachers' assessment of students measures, skill development, strengths and weaknesses, etc. And the student survey measures students' general happiness in school and motivation for learning. That is, whether they're motivated by their love and passion for their subjects or by pressure and expectation. Our assessment method can be beneficial to Acera when it is collected over time and creates a useful now I hand it off to Ari to talk about, Alyssa, to talk about further suggestions and research for Acera.
So we created a lot of documents out of a lot of research, and especially in our interviews. I see several of the people here that we've interviewed, and we got a lot of great suggestions, and we compiled them to make sure that Acera knows that there's lots of different options to be building their kind of philosophy into a high school program. And these are some of the things that we really wanted to focus on. So offering career exploration, because Acera does focus on STEM, we want to make sure that they also have other career exposure, and definitely they do, but we want to really expand on that. An example we got was from Global High, where they actually have students pair up with a community member and shadow their job and actually work on a project with them. So that's something that Acera could think of doing for their high school students. Also, a diverse subject offering, because it's such a one-on-one ratio, you want to make sure that you're finding teachers who really know about different subjects, and even maybe bringing in community members who are experts in those areas so that the teachers don't have to be an expert in every single subject. And also the transition to alternative education. This is something that we heard a lot from parents who are concerned about students who didn't grow up in a Acera model. Maybe they grew up in a more traditional K through 8 and now want to transition to a school like Acera for high school, and kind of the challenges that come with that, we wrote down some of the risks and different ways that you can try to get over those risks. And then college readiness. This is something that Acera doesn't teach in the same way that high schools do. They aren't teaching towards the SATs or AP classes. But we do think that Acera students will be ready for college. But some of the transitions that parents were more worried about was the social transition and how they would be able to interact in the classroom with a regular professor. So that's one of the things that we have different suggestions for to figure it out. And we have further suggestions from Ari. Now it's actually Ari's turn.
Alright, so in addition, we also thought about marketing and branding for Acera. Obviously, we're already marketing to families, but there's also grants to think about and investors to think about. So in order to become more appealing, the Acera High School could think about increasing racial diversity in their faculty and staff. They could also create systems for financial aid or scholarships so that they can get students from more diverse socioeconomic backgrounds. And they could also demonstrate a need for the Acera type model of education, especially for twice exceptional students. Another thing that we would recommend is hiring an educational researcher to conduct research on the students at Acera, because they could conduct pre-surveys and post-surveys and really prove the effectiveness of the Acera model. We also thought about whether they should use an organic or inorganic growth model for the high school, and we would strongly recommend starting with just welcoming one incoming class of first years and expanding the high school year by year, because it's really hard to have all the resources necessary to have an entire high school at once. And so while they should be mindful of having curriculum ready for what they would be teaching each year, we would recommend accepting only 1 year at a time. Finally, one thing we explored was a potential future Babson, Olin, Wellesley partnership with the Acera High School. Something like this has never really been put in place with the 3 colleges and a high school before, and so it was very interesting to interview all the faculty that we could reach out to in the 3 schools to hear what they thought. And moving forward, we have these pieces of advice if we were to, if the Acera High School were to create a partnership. The first one is to have clear goals for what they want out of that type of partnership. And one way to do that would be to have several different options of different models of how they would partner up, whether it's having students come to classes at the 3 colleges or sharing faculty members or something completely different. Another way is to identify the correct faculty and students. In order to have this partnership, there needs to be a lot of people who are invested in making it work. And so you need to have faculty members and students who are invested in making it happen at each of the 3 schools. And in order to do that, we think that it would be good to have a small pilot in the beginning where you prove that there is a mutual benefit for both of the schools, or all 4 of the schools. And finally, we recommend that you would consider other partnerships as well. There are other colleges and universities with programs for high school students in place already. And there are also alternative learning spaces that are becoming more popular, such as the New View Studios in Cambridge, or places like Parts and Crafts in Somerville that have different spaces where students can go and explore and learn STEM fields.
Question on that? Last point. I'm curious how that relates to the BOW partnership. Is that something you're suggesting to Acera, or is that something you're suggesting to BOW?
We're suggesting that to the Acera High School.
Okay.
So in addition to the Babson, Olin, Wellesley partnership, you could also explore other partnerships.
done. That obviously is not all the details and all the considerations we've gone through. However, we are going to break for 10 to 15 minutes, so we have provided food and refreshments. So I think we're going to set it up on the table out here, and once you have your food and you're like happy, we will we will be able